Okay, we can do a slate.
Excuse me, Head Fazio.
Okay. If you could start off talking about, who you are and this organization you belong to.
Texans for Accountable Government.
Either one. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I got involved in about 2008, and it was from seeing a documentary, and it had kind of opened my eyes to what kind of world we were living in and the possibilities that are out there, just because it had never occurred to me how much power we actually have. They tell you when you're a kid that knowledge is power and that you can be anything that you want to be, but the reality of it is that you absolutely can be. But unfortunately, our public school system, our government school system, teaches respect for authority and undue respect for authority rather than inspiring children to really reach their full potential, use their imaginations. And you see the results of it when our education, the education of the average American just keeps going down and down and down rather than, coinciding with the budget increases that we're doing. And, so there's a lot of contradiction within our society where they tell us that we're free and that this is as good as it gets. But in reality, we are on the same path that other societies have gone on when they slip into totalitarianism. And that's where we're at right now. And so when I got involved, it was very overwhelming learning about the war on terror being phony and being used against us rather than terrorists, the education system being a complete failure, and then learning that we have been lied to about our monetary policy, about the income tax, the Federal Reserve. All of this is all fabricated. And when we start realizing and pulling back these layers, we can actually see that we can be free. We were born free, and if we get out there and just speak up for ourselves, and we will be free again. And so whenever I got involved, it was very overwhelming, and fortunately in Austin we have some really great people, and I found Texans for Accountable Government when I was trying to keep my head above water, when I was had jumped down this rabbit hole figuring out what the world was really like. And so we got involved because it's not just about knowing that something's wrong, it's about taking action to rectify the problem. And that's what TAG's all about, is finding solutions to the problems that we're facing.
Okay. Are you giving a speech tonight?
Yeah, tonight I'll be speaking about, what got me involved, because I was, just the average American, didn't really have high ambitions or goals, just kind of went through the public education system, and now I have made a whole 180 in my perspective on the world and the potential that we all have. And so I'll be talking about my involvement, how I got involved, and how important it is for us to start speaking up for ourselves. Because it looks like we're at the point where we realize that our government, especially the federal government, has become detrimental to its own ends. And at that point in this cycle of society, we decide whether we need to alter or abolish it. And it's arguable if we're at the part where we just abolished it all. People have been trying to alter it for years, decades even, and it doesn't seem to be getting any better. So maybe we need to just start over from scratch. I don't think that we're there yet. I don't think we're ready. People use the word secession, but I think that's a bad word. That word puts a bad feeling in people. It's scary. I look at it more as, the abolition, because we are not free right now. And if we want to abolish the oppression that we're under, we're going to have to start over from scratch, but we're not ready yet. I think that we have a lot of community building that we need to do. We need to prepare ourselves to be able to be self-sustainable, and not sustainable in a Agenda 21, UN kind of way, but in a sustainable way where we have strong communities, where we have, charities and nonprofits and, community schools working to educate our children and to really be strong enough so that we can take care of ourselves, because it's obvious that the U.S. economy is collapsing and we need to focus on building alternate institutions. One of the other speakers, John Bush, is a very close friend of mine. He's been a mentor to me since I got involved. And that's what he's going to be talking about tonight, is building alternate institutions. So it looks like we're at a critical point in our history where we have to determine whether we want to alter or abolish the form of government that we have that has become detrimental to its own ends. And I'm not opposed to abolishing it entirely. I think that there's a good argument to say that people have been trying to alter it for decades now and it's not working. But I don't think that we're prepared yet for that, to be able to be self-sustainable and to take care of ourselves quite yet. So I think that in the process of us building these alternate institutions so that we can be sustainable, what we have to do is start getting it on the record that we are adamantly opposed to what is being perpetrated on us, and that we have to start getting it out there on the record. You know, during the Declaration of Independence, when they were writing that, they said all of these grievances that they have that had not been redressed by the king, and we have grievances about what our federal government is doing, and they're not being answered. And so I think that it's important at this time in our history that we start speaking up for ourselves and putting it on the record that we are opposed to so much that the federal government is doing, and getting it on the record, and then building alternate institutions, preparing ourselves to be independent so that when we do declare it, we are prepared for it.
Okay. If you could maybe talk about the diversity of backgrounds of the people that, for instance, will be sharing the stage with you tonight, and in the audience, keeping in mind also you're coming from Austin and a completely different, usually a younger activist group, and then out at West Texas, maybe different values and different backgrounds, and how everybody sort of is coming together for some key issues.
Well, one of the things that Texans for Accountable Government is all about is harmonizing. What our motto is: humanize, harmonize, and localize. Humanizing is really getting on a human level about what we're being subjected to and how it affects us as individuals, and it affects all of us. It doesn't subscribe to party lines. And so when we can start connecting on that human level, we can begin harmonizing and working together. We don't all have to agree on one thing or another, but when we do agree, it's so important that we come together. And individual rights are what this country was founded on. The form of government that was established by our founding fathers was really quite incredible, where the individual's rights are above the collective. And we need to get back to that, for starters, and then think about revising. I mean, the Constitution isn't perfect, but it certainly is a good step to get back to. And I think that a lot of us agree with that, because the inalienable rights that are outlined in the Bill of Rights and talked about in the U.S. Constitution are human rights. And so this isn't a conservative or a liberal thing. This is about our right to not be violated by the government that is supposed to be protecting us. And when you have things like the Patriot Act being passed, and the provision to the NDAA that says that we can indefinitely detain American citizens, it was bad enough that they were doing it to other humans in the Middle East. Now they're doing it to us. And that's what you see when you don't speak up, when there's violence being perpetuated on other people, it comes to you. And so if we don't start speaking up now before it starts happening to American citizens, then it's going to be us. And they start talking about Fusion Center reports coming out, talking about how anybody who is anti-government, is anti-income tax, who supports Ron Paul, are potential domestic terrorists. This is what it's designed for. This whole counter-terrorism, all in this post-9/11 world, is not designed for the evil bad guys. This is designed for dissent. It's designed for when we get fed up with what the state is doing to us and what they're subjecting us to, that we can't fight back, that we just disappear. Well, not if I have anything to do with it. We are going to stand up for ourselves and make sure that we are loud enough that the whole world can hear us as we fight back against the totalitarianism that we're being subjected to.